Welcome along, everyone. It's great to have you all here. Let's see if, yes, okay, so I've got control of the slides for the time being. I'll hand over to you in a second, Moorad. So look, these are the topic areas that we're going to take you through. What is the BTRM in actual fact? What is it and why is it beneficial? We're going to talk about the history of the BTRM. We're going to talk about how it's evolved in the last 10 years. It is soon to be our 10th anniversary, actually, which is very exciting. And it's going to be the 19th cohort starting in April. We're going to talk about the BTRM faculty, which is obviously extremely important, the most important thing about the program, as well as the content. We'll talk about the candidate profiles, both professional and academic profiles, which is extremely important because you need to have the right academic background or the right professional background in order that this course does not go over your head. We'll talk about the journey. So really it begins today. For some of you, it would have started before today if you've done any research. Otherwise, it begins today. So this is crucial in terms of the information that you'll be gathering from Moorad in particular today about the program. He's also going to break down the syllabus in detail, which is, I think, going to be the most important part of this presentation. We'll talk about the certification. Who provides the certification, who accredits the BTRM program. We'll talk about the testimonials. I'll then take you through the BTRM alumni contacts that you can get in touch with, as well as the study partner program and the help desk, otherwise known as the BTRM forum, which Moorad will talk about. And I think at this stage, let's see, can I change the presenter to Moorad? Yes, I can. Okay. And over to you, Moorad.
Thank you very much, my friend. Thank you for that, Jeff. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, good day to all of you. Thank you for joining us here on this BTRM information session. So there's the content. Let's get straight into it. Oh, sorry, forgive me. Where are my manners? My name is Moorad Choudhry. As you've just heard, it's our 10th anniversary. May 2014 was when we first got together, myself and WBS, and put together and founded the BTRM, and cohort 1 kicked off in October that year. As you've just heard, cohort 19 is kicking off in a couple of months, 6-month program. So we're very pleased about that. And there'll be some sort of celebration. There needs to be some sort of celebration come May. So let's proceed then. And I believe there's any comments or questions. We'll have plenty of time at the end. Feel free to use the chat function to write in your questions either during the presentation or at the end. We'll have plenty of time for them. Okay, so let us proceed with the slides. I think I want page down, don't I? There I go. Yes. So what is it? What is the Certificate of Bank Treasury Risk Management? It is a professional qualification. So in that respect, within the bank space for bankers, think of it as something that's equivalent to a CFA or the GARP's FRM or Premier's PRM or the Association of Corporate Treasurers ACT. It's a professional qualification, but it is specifically for those who work in banks, any kind of bank, any kind of banking institution. So that would include institutions that don't necessarily call themselves banks, for example, credit unions or other non-bank FIs, any institution that has a balance sheet to manage because it engages in lending money in some way and taking deposits in some way. And specifically balance sheet risk management and asset liability management, it's a core discipline in banking. Specifically, that is what the BTRM is about. It is a professional qualification that looks at the technical side of this discipline and it teaches it. And at the end of the program, one has, if one is successful in passing the examination, one has the Certificate of Bank Treasury Risk Management. It's a professional qualification for those who are engaged in any way, first line, second line, third line, consulting, advisory, regulator, in any way can concern themselves with the ALM discipline in banking, this is a qualification for them. Okay, so it's a professional qualification, 6 months in duration, part-time. You study it in your own time. The lectures are at set times during the week, but they are recorded. A bit like today, we're not all in the same room. We are live streaming this, and the recording will be available later for someone who's not able to join us live. That's how we present the program. 6-month part-time qualification, completely practitioner-led, developed and orientated. This is not a theoretical program. It is not a textbook program. The entire contents are 100% relevant to what banks do in their day job, managing the balance sheet. Now, as we all know, banks come in many different shapes and sizes. Not all of them have the same problems. Some of them have problems that others don't. Some of them have more unique problems. So in that respect, I wouldn't say that everything on the BTRM is relevant to every bank in the world, but ALM is a discipline that every bank in the world, irrespective of its size or business model, follows. And the content of the program is all about what is relevant to you in the real world in a day-to-day and in a medium-term basis. It's not theory, it's not academia, it is completely practitioner-driven, orientated, led and targeted, which is what the next bullet point says. Now, we make a possibly bold claim in saying it's unique as the only global professional qualification exclusively for bank, treasury, finance and risk professionals. I think that's the case still. I'm not aware of a global, worldwide, obtainable worldwide, delivered worldwide qualification that is specifically aimed at bankers and bank treasury people, balance sheet risk management people. But possibly there may be another one out there. If there is, I'd love to know about it, because it's all about learning, isn't it? So that's what the BTRM is. Now, what's the history? Very quick timeline there. As I mentioned, May 24, it was founded. We're currently here today. I'm talking to you. It's February 24, 2024, May 14. Did I say 24? May 2014. May 2014, it was founded. Here we are today in February 2024, just approaching 10th anniversary. Cohort 19 is kicking off in April, as I mentioned. So we're currently, the current study cohort is, or program is cohort 18. Cohort 20 will be on the 10th anniversary of cohort 1, which of course is October this year. Now, how does it benefit you? How would it benefit you? Well, one could say, well, it's a professional qualification. It benefits you because it's a professional qualification. But we think there's a little bit more to it than that. First of all, the middle arrow there on the left is practitioner orientated. It's not, you're not going to be taught something out of an academic's textbook by someone who hasn't done the job himself or herself. You will be taught out of textbooks, it's true, but they are practitioner textbooks written by practitioners for practitioners, and you will be taught by faculty members who have done the job themselves, or in some cases are still doing the job themselves. I'll come to the faculty in a minute. So we think that is the main benefit of the BTRM as a professional qualification. It is teaching you what you will benefit from learning in the course of your professional career, and you will apply it during the course of your professional career. Qualify from anywhere in the world, absolutely right. The program is delivered live once or twice a week, but it is live streamed, so you can access it anywhere in the world, provided you have internet connection. And of course, they are recorded, so if it's in a time zone that doesn't suit you, lectures start at 5:30 of an evening UK time. If that happens to be the middle of the night where you are, no problem, watch the recording the next day. So you qualify from anywhere in the world, and you sit the exam from your desktop, unless you're based in the UK. If you're based in the UK, you sit the exam on the same day in an examination centre in person using old-fashioned pen and paper. Outside of the UK, it's from your desktop, and it's the examination is taken at your desktop. So qualify from anywhere in the world. Teaching and support, Jeff will mention the support that's available to you during the program and post the program. So that Jeff will come to that. And lifelong learning. We have alumni, and I'll come to the faculty forum, the student faculty forum. I'll come to that in a minute. We have alumni who are previous students who still engage with us on the forum. They ask questions, they make observations, they comment, they engage in debate. So it's lifelong learning, and we think that's also a valuable benefit for anyone who's taken the BTRM. Okay. We're very pleased and proud to have partnered and been accredited by and officially partnered with a European university, the University of Northwestern Switzerland. That is the awarding body. Previously, the certificates were awarded by ourselves. You got a certificate from the BTRM, and at the top was a little embossed badge that said BTRM. Nowadays, you get that, but also is an embossed badge that says FHNW, University of Northwestern Switzerland. That is the awarding body, and we think that's something first for us to be proud of, but also second, I think for students also to be proud of. You're alumni, not just of the BTRM, but of a top university in Europe. So anyone who qualifies with the BTRM obtains a certificate issued by and awarded by FHNW, University of Northwestern Switzerland. And that's something, again, we're very pleased to partner with them 3 years now, and students really do value that. Okay, the faculty. I mentioned the faculty, a team of over 20 lecturers or faculty members from around the world. Their experience ranges from global multinational banks to small community banks, mutually owned credit institutions, regulatory authorities, and all bank business models in between. As I said earlier, the faculty have either done this over the course of their career for real. What they teach you is what they've done. They've observed best practice and they're now teaching it, or they're still doing it. A number of the people there are treasurers of banks. For example, Beata Lipinska, treasurer of Alica Bank in the UK, Colin Johnson, treasurer of Co-op Bank, Cooperative Bank in the UK. Some of them are current practitioners. Michael Eichhorn, very highly respected Professor Dr. Michael Eichhorn, colleague of mine from my RBS days, Royal Bank of Scotland days. He's with Credit Suisse. You may find there's a smattering of RBS diaspora in that faculty. People I worked with at RBS Group Treasury or RBS Global Banking and Markets, they are now on the faculty. Having worked with them in practice, I could see their quality, I could see their application, their professionalism, their very strong ability to teach as well as to practice, and so I recruited them onto the faculty. Every one of those faculty are hand-picked by myself, and they represent, as Jeff said earlier, the strength of the BTRM. I don't want to comment on any other professional qualification or awarding body or any of our peers in this space, but I can't think of any other faculty that has that depth, that breadth, that quality, that practitioner experience, and actually teaches it themselves. I can't think of any. So, one of the very biggest strengths of the BTRM is its faculty. And of course, they aren't just delivering the lectures; they also engage with students over the forum, over the online student faculty forum. They are available online via the forum. If you have a particular question aimed at connected with a specific lecture, you could aim your question, post it on the forum, and you'll get that faculty person to respond. If it's more general, well, we get into a bit of a free-for-all. A number of us will engage and get involved in the same debate. So again, a real strength of the program is our faculty, the depth and strength and quality and experience of our faculty. And as you can see, it's a veritable United Nations there in its diversity. It's genuine diversity and breadth and depth of experience. Okay, steadily growing student numbers over time. Jeff mentioned about student backgrounds and academic backgrounds. To be honest, actually, that isn't too much of a constraint. If you work in banking or in financial services, so for example, if you work in a non-bank FI but are interested in managing the balance sheet, if you work in any area of balance sheet risk management, then you are pretty much got the right background. So if you can look, we've got a wide range of student profiles there. We've got people coming from the Treasury front office, from Treasury middle office, from internal audit, from the second line of defense, from the risk management function, from money markets. We've always had a smattering of people working at the regulatory authorities or central banks on a cohort. Their academic backgrounds, again, very wide ranging. Some of them come from quantitative backgrounds, some of them from less so. So it could be physics, mathematics, business studies, management studies, economic history. We've got a wide range of student profiles in terms of their professional background, but also their university education. We have had students who haven't come from a university background. They've joined a bank from school and they've acquired experience in banking. So we would recommend the BTRM as being wholly suitable once you've acquired a few years of experience. I wouldn't recommend the BTRM for someone who's never worked in a bank. So if you're coming out of university and you've got an entry-level job at a bank, I would first acquire a few years of experience, and then you will really benefit from it. Having acquired a few years of experience, it doesn't matter whether you are, in your mid-20s or late 20s or early 30s with a few years of experience, or you're in your well, I was about to say late 50s like myself, or you're very senior and experienced and you're in the C-suite. Routinely, our cohorts include CROs, CFOs, C-suite people, heads of business line joining the cohort because, again, they're adding to their professional and technical expertise and experience by taking the BTRM. So it is actually for more experienced people all the way up to senior and C-suite level. But it doesn't mean, I'm not saying you need loads and loads of experience. Like I said, 3 years onwards will be sufficient to really get the benefit from taking the program, from enrolling on the program. Very proud of the fact that our students have come from literally all around the world. If you look at where students have come from during the 18 cohorts that we have been teaching this program, they've come from over, that says 60 countries. That's actually out of date now, believe it or not. This slide updates every few months. We're approaching 70 different countries where BTRM students have been located. So something we're very proud of. It is a genuine global community. Our students are based in countries on every continent, as you can see from that map. And in fact, as I said, we need to shade in a few more countries because it's approaching 70 countries right now. Okay, just a random sample of the employing institutions that students have come from. And as you can see there's a very wide range. There's central banks, globally systemically important banks, consulting firms, solutions software providers. We've had students come from FIS, the previous SunGard, consulting firms, commercial banks, global banks, multinational banks, community banks. Okay, so very wide range of employing institutions, from the very well known to the well, almost unknown outside of their own jurisdiction, I should say, but very wide range of employing institutions. Okay, the BTRM journey starts off today with the information session. Meet the faculty. In this case, you're meeting myself, one of the faculty. Apply online by the registration form, get approved for acceptance, and then you are on to the next cohort. The next cohort starts in April. What is the exact date? Says he, looking in his paper diary. Let's have a look here. The next cohort starts on April the 10th. That will be cohort 19, and cohorts start every April and every October. Okay, that's ahead of that. You will receive your learning materials, the textbooks, the student handbook, and the student guide. Okay, if you haven't already, have a look at the brochure, which is available online. The brochure, the student guide is sent to enrolled students ahead of the start of their cohort. That details every lecture in the program in detail. You can see any further reading, you can see the recommended reading, and you can see the outline of each lecture, together with the learning objectives of each of the modules. At the end of the program, 23 weeks worth of lectures, you will sit the exam, and that is, as I said, from your own desktop, all on the same day. There is an exam date that's the same for everyone, but there's a window of opportunity. There's a window when you can take the exam during the UK hours of the examination date. Okay, but that allows you plenty of time, and you know well in advance when it is. Okay, so that is the BTRM journey. Who has endorsed our program? The CISI, my professional body. In my day, it was called the Securities Institute. I remember sitting the exams for the Securities Institute in 1991, 1992. They changed their name subsequently to the Chartered Institute for Securities and Investment. Okay, so they have endorsed our program, and we're permission to use their logo, which is nice to know. Unlike the American Bankers Association, who have, however, approved our program as approved professional learning. Okay, 60 certified enterprise risk professional credits from the American Bankers Association. There's a few other bodies that have endorsed us. I mentioned the university accreditation. We are just about to announce, I can't say it because it's not formalized till Thursday. We are just about to announce endorsement and accreditation from a global professional association that we're very pleased to receive, but I won't mention that just yet because it hasn't formally been announced, but it is coming shortly. Now, I've got a couple of slides worth of testimonials there. You can see a lot more on the website. They come from students of varying backgrounds, all very heartwarming and gratifying to see. My favorite, there's 2 slides worth there for you to have a look at. My favorite remains the one at the top left. That was quite early on, cohort 3, cohort 4. from a gentleman who at the time was working at Santander. He then moved on to Atom Bank, which is a challenger bank in the UK, where I believe he still is. And what does he say? I really like the way that one would learn something at a lecture and then go back to the office and apply it next day to the day job. It was that practical and relevant a course for practitioners. Now, despite the fact that some of the other testimonials there are very nice and very gratifying, that one has to remain my personal favorite, because that's exactly what I wanted the BTRM to be. I wanted the BTRM to be something that was practically valuable. You would learn something at a lecture and the very next day you would apply it in your day job. Another similar endorsement to that, which is elsewhere, I think on the website, was for someone who said, I'm already applying what I'm learning in the cohort at ALCO meetings. So this is an attendee or a member of the asset-liability committee of the bank he was employed at, and he's going along to the ALCO, and he's able to say more and contribute more to the ALCO committee because of what he learned in the BTRM. That's another endorsement I'm particularly pleased at receiving. Okay, program delivery. Well, first of all, there is, as I mentioned, the online forum. Students and past students, once you're an alumni, will post any comment, query, observation, question, challenge, anything at all, either specific to a lecture or a more general point on the forum, and they are guaranteed to reply within 24 hours from one member of the faculty. Some of these debates can go on for some time, and we have lots of faculty taking part. There's the live lecture once or twice a week. I think one week there are 3 in a week, but the workload is not normally that heavy. It's once a week and sometimes twice a week. You'll get the live lectures. These are recorded, so you're available to you if you can't see them live. You've got the slides associated with the lecture. You've also got the student handbook, which is A4 size, double-sided, about this thick. That is the core textbook. There is the core textbooks, the formal textbooks, which includes Principles of Banking, written by yours truly. There's 3 other textbooks, but there's the student handbook. That is essentially what you revise from, because that's the core content. We'll always use real-world examples and illustrations and case studies. There is, in some lectures, always sample policy templates, spreadsheet models. During the course of the year, we are always running webinars on current topics. The most recent one we ran was on interest rate risk in the banking book. Last summer, we ran one on the failure of Silicon Valley Bank. So that's always ongoing anyway, and that's available to students as well as the members of the public. And then we've got the lifelong learning, which essentially is you engage yourself with via the forum. Okay, so that is how the program is delivered. So you'll get the hard copy or soft copy as you wish, student guide, student handbook, and the core textbooks. And then, of course, there are the lectures. And at the end of that, all that material is examinable, and you will sit the exam based on what you've been taught. Okay. Now, I'm just going to go through. I've seen some questions on the chat. Let's just see if it's worth going through some of them already. Okay. Right. Hi, is this meeting recorded and it will be made available later to attendees? Jeff will confirm that this meeting is being recorded and it will be made available to all attendees. Yes, absolutely. Also, is it possible to complete the course in less than 6 months or over 6 months? It's not possible to complete. No, hold on, as you were. If you are joining the BTRM program as a full student, then it is not possible to complete it in less than 6 months, because between taking lecture 1 and sitting the exam, it's a 6-month period. Okay, or just under 6 months. No, it's 6 months, 25 weeks. Okay. If you are a self-study student, you can enroll at any time, and you are sent the course handbook and the core textbook, Principles of Banking, and you would sit the next exam. So if you are a self-study student, which means someone who doesn't attend the lectures, you only receive the learning material, then you could theoretically enroll in August and sit the exam in October. Okay, that's a lot of material to learn, but theoretically it's possible. If you are a self-study student, you can complete the course in less than 6 months. If you are a regular student who attends the lectures, no, it would be 6 months. Can you attend it and can you complete it in over 6 months? Well, if you fail the first examination, you are entitled to resit the next examination 6 months later at no further cost. A resit is included in the registration fee, and so that would mean you would complete the course in over 6 months. But that wouldn't be a reason you would that unless you chose not to sit your cohort's exam and voluntarily deferred to the next cohort exam, that wouldn't be a reason you'd want to do it, because it means failure. But you can, yes, extend. You can voluntarily say, I don't want to sit this one, and you are entitled to sit the next one 6 months later. So it is possible to complete the course in over 6 months, whether you are a self-study student or a regular student. It's not possible to complete it in under 6 months unless you're a self-study student, because then you can register at any time and then sit the next diarised exam. Okay. Okay, that's fine. I should just say that Dr. Hussein Hussaini, who has put a few comments here, is not associated with the BTRM. Okay, thank you for your comment, Dr. Hussaini. I should just make clear to all the delegates here, Dr. Hussaini is not connected with the BTRM. Okay. One easy question: what is the minimum score required to pass the exams? Well, the pass mark is actually 60%. I know that in most academic examinations, the pass mark is 50%. We deliberately set the bar high and set a 60% pass mark for the final examination. That may sound more difficult than it might do, but I am very pleased to say that our failure rate is actually very low. Our students are very highly motivated, and I can say this consistently over 18 cohorts. Our students are very highly motivated. They do put the time in. Our faculty are always very supportive. We will always answer questions in full whenever there's any queries. The examination support is strong, and so our failure rate is very low. In fact, there is one cohort where every student, I forget which, it was 2 or 3 cohorts ago, where we didn't have a single failure. Every student passed. Now, does that mean the examination is easy? No, not at all. You can tell by just looking at the syllabus content. This is in-depth study of technical subjects, but our students are very highly motivated. They put the time in, they put the work in, they read the texts, they engage with the faculty, they learn the material, and they pass the exam. So even though it's a high pass mark, I'm pleased to say the failure rate is very low, and on one occasion we had a 0% failure rate, which I don't think any professional qualification can boast. How different is this course to the ACI Dealing Certificate Diploma? That's a very good question. If I have the ACI, would taking the BTRM be edifying or contracting my path and function? Well, let me answer your first question. There is some crossover naturally, because the ACI Dealing Certificate Diploma deals with the money markets and FX markets. We cover those topics, but the BTRM has much more in it. For example, topics like yield curve construction, collateral management, derivatives, XVAs, ICAP, capital adequacy, recovery planning, resolution planning. There's a whole range of syllabus topics that aren't in the ACI. We do cover money markets and foreign exchange hedging and money markets dealing, but the syllabus is much larger. Think of it as simply a higher level. I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, just a more involved, more global reaching syllabus. So it is different in that it covers a lot more material. Therefore, that enables me to answer your second question very easily. If you have the ACI, would taking the BTRM be edifying or contracting? It would be widening out your pathway, your potential pathway, because you'll be adding a lot more technical knowledge to your knowledge base. As I said, the syllabus content is extensive in its breadth and its depth. So taking the BTRM would be enhancing your professional background. It would be adding to what you already have. You've got the ACI certificate or diploma, you'd have the certificate in BTRM, you'd know a lot more about you'd have a lot more technical knowledge about more related topics, all to do with managing bank balance sheet risk. So I would definitely say yes, it would be edifying. It would add to your knowledge base and your potential career pathway. If I register today, do I get the learning material immediately, or do I have to wait for April when the course starts? You get the learning material around, Jeff, I'm going to leave Jeff to clarify this in a second, but you get the learning material around 2 to 3 weeks before the program starts. That's the student handbook and the core textbooks. It's around 2 to 3 weeks. There isn't that much advantage in getting all of it too early, because the idea is you learn it as we do the lectures. By no means are we saying all the material needs to be a pre-read. We don't want you to pre-read. I mean, that would be a bit of a task, because just one of them has about 780 pages, right? So the idea is you read it as you do the course. So the pre-reading is only for the primer, lecture 1. Really, the material you get, you would take up, you would be assimilating during the course. Okay, you will get it, say, 2 to 3 weeks before the course starts, which is not that far away from where we are now. I mean, if you were to register now, you would get the material in March. Okay, may we please get a bit more context around the type of exam it is and the passing criteria? By all means. The exam is old-fashioned. It's a closed book there's no multiple choice. It's more like an old-fashioned exam. We do have online module tests after each of the modules. I'm going to go through the modules in a second. We do have online tests, but that's just to check progress in learning. They don't contribute to your final mark. The final mark is from the written exam only, which is a 3-hour sight unseen closed book examination. It's in 2 parts. 20% of it is short form questions, 5 marks each, and 80% of it is long form questions between 10 and 20 marks each. It's old fashioned insofar as you are required to answer the question. There's some calculation. There may be some calculation. It could be discursive. You could be asked to give your opinion on something. You could be asked to describe a particular operating model, but you're essentially writing the answer. There's no multiple choice in the examination. The module online tests are multiple choice, but the examination is not. Okay. The passing criteria, 60% pass mark, as I said. Think of it as a more even though I said the program was not academic in its content and its drive and its direction, the examination is more old-fashioned academic. So it's a sight unseen, closed book, 3-hour examination, which you sit at your desktop, unless you're based in the UK, when you'll be using old-fashioned pen and paper. I hope these answers are answering everyone. These answers are answering everyone's question. That's repeated again. I'm a treasurer in a fintech specialized in digital payments. Is BTRM relevant for me? Absolutely 100%. You're the treasurer, which means you manage the balance sheet for cash management, and your payments will be hitting your balance sheet. If your fintech doesn't actually retain anything on the balance sheet, if you are simply a payments organization, which is passing payments in or out, and you're not managing balance sheet risk, then it's probably less relevant for you. But if you're a treasurer who has to manage cash and manage any part of balance sheet risk, it's relevant for you. Possibly less relevant than a treasurer in a bank, because a treasurer in a bank is managing loan risk and on the asset side of the balance sheet, and liquidity and funding risk and interest rate risk on the funding side, well, on both sides of the balance sheet, and liquidity risk on the liability side of the balance sheet. So the BTRM is wholly relevant for them. If you are managing, if you're a cash manager, or you are managing balance sheet risk because of cash staying on the balance sheet as a loan or a liability, as an asset or liability, then it's also relevant for you. Absolutely. Okay, that question was repeated. That's fine. I guess it is not a la carte, but can you register per module? No, the short answer to that is no, you can't. Does it give you a form of a certification, or is it all or nothing? It is all or nothing. We don't have examinations for individual modules. No, sorry. I mean, that's an interesting idea. There's no reason that we might not be able to in the future, but at the time being, no, that's not the case. I have CTP from AFP. I'm familiar with that qualification. Is BTRM different? It's different in the detail. There is a lot of similarity in the content, but as I said, we do cover topics that aren't in the CTP. Well, the last time I looked at the syllabus, for example, derivatives XVAs, collateral management, centralized clearing for derivatives, the ICAP, the ILAP process. So the BTRM is different in that it covers more topics, but there is crossover, yes. Could you also give more color about the difference between BTRM and CFA? Well, I mentioned CFA when I was saying we're a professional qualification. Really, we are quite different to the CFA. I always thought the CFA was I've taken the exams. I always thought the CFA was more for the equity analyst side of things, the fund management side of things. It's a more wider financial analyst qualification for those who work in many areas within the financial markets. Like I said, you could be in fund management, you could be an equity research analyst, you could be an economist in a bank. So it's for a much wider financial markets person. The BTRM is specifically bank treasury risk management. So for those who work in bank balance sheet risk management. So that's a key difference. I wouldn't say the CFA is a kind of peer of the BTRM. A peer would be something like CTP just now, the question I had just now, or GARP's FRM or the Premier PRM, although they're more wide-ranging, and to me they're more academic qualifications. The CFA is quite distinct from the BTRM. It's not a risk management qualification as such. There's nothing in it, for example, about the asset-liability committee. I always think it's more for fund managers and investment analysts, but it's a more wide-ranging financial markets qualification. Okay, which is the material that is required to actually learn for the exam? Very good question, and you have answered it, Mr. Garcia. Does the BTRM student handbook contain all necessary materials? Correct, it does. The examined syllabus is what's in the handbook. Okay, you get 4 textbooks alongside that, one of which is the principles of banking, but the whole book is not the exam and syllabus. The exam and syllabus is the student handbook, which all students receive, including self-study students. That's the exam and syllabus. So that gives you a clear focus on what is examined. Okay. How different is BTRM from Cert BALM? Great question. I'm personally familiar with the ALMA organization. I was on their committee for 5 or 6 years, and I'm aware of the content of it, and some of my very closest friends are ALMA people. In fact, Colin Johnson, who is on our faculty today, is a former chair of the ALMA Association. Okay, so I'm very close to them. I know them very well, and they're personal friends of mine. How different is BTRM from Cert BALM? I would say it's different in the breadth of its coverage and in the manner of its teaching, and also the fact that its faculty is more wide-ranging and has more depth and breadth to it, okay, in terms of diversity. So it's different in terms of the breadth of its syllabus. It covers topics that aren't in the Cert BALM syllabus. To mention a few, I mean, if you look at the brochure on the website, there's this question is actually answered there. It covers, there's nothing on derivatives XVA in the Cert BALM. There's a lot less on collateral management. There's very little on yield curve interpolation. So there is more depth as well as breadth in the syllabus, and it's taught in a very different way. It's taught through a series of weekly lectures, live, or you can watch the recording, by a wide-ranging faculty who you can engage with throughout the program. The Cert BALM is taught as a 3-day, I think it's 3-day residential, where you're taught in one go. You download a PDF file, that's the textbook, and then you sit the exam. So it's taught in a much more in-depth way. There's no online forum for continuous regular engagement with the faculty. So it's taught in a different way. The engagement with the faculty is different. In fact, I wouldn't call Cert, I don't think Cert BALM has a faculty as such. They've got a number of people who deliver their, I could be wrong here. I just think they don't call them faculty. It's not a continuous faculty of who are identified as we teach Cert BALM, but I could be wrong on that. Forgive me. So it's different in the depth and breadth of its topics, its syllabus coverage, and in the way it's taught, and in the way the student engages with the faculty. In the BTRM, you are able to continuously engage with the faculty throughout the 6-month program. Okay, very good question. Thank you for that. How does the course meet the needs of an internal auditor focused on Treasury? Great question, and I would suggest meets it very well. One of our faculty, Tricia Geraghty, one of the RBS diaspora, she was in my team at RBS Group Treasury 10 years ago. She was doing that for many years. She was internal audit focused on Treasury at TSB Bank, a medium-sized bank here in the UK. She's on the faculty, and she does a specific lecture on Treasury and third line of defense. So if you are internal audit, third line of defense, focusing on Treasury, this program will give you a whole host of technical knowledge that would benefit your day job. She only joined a couple of faculties ago. I'd known her for years. She left TSB recently and is now on the faculty, and there's a specific lecture just on that, focused on the internal audit approach, or internal audit engagement with Treasury risk. But there's also the rest of the material that would be very relevant to an internal auditor who is involved in Treasury review. So that's very, very relevant to you completely. How is BTRM different from FRM? In a number of ways. FRM is, I think, more generalist. I hold the FRM. I took it a long time ago. It's again, the syllabus has much more technical depth to it, in that we get real into the weeds, the technical depth, the complexity of topics like derivatives pricing and yield curve interpolation. The examination is different, and of course there's a live faculty that you engage with during the course. You don't do, well, I didn't in my day, maybe it's changed. You don't engage with the faculty. You're taught by people who didn't write the material that they're teaching you. And you don't engage with them, you don't engage with them during the course. There isn't a concept of an online forum that you can have challenge and debate and discussion with, and the syllabus has much more depth to it on the topics, whether it's as I said, yield curve interpolation or derivatives pricing, and indeed there are a whole host of bank risk issues like liquidity risk and capital management, ILAP and ICAP, that aren't in the FRM at all. And in fact, there's topics like recovery planning and resolution planning. Again, they're not in the FRM at all. So it is quite different in its content, but also in the manner of its teaching, and in the way that the student engages with the faculty. How many semesters, cohorts are there in a year? What are the run periods? They're 2 in a year. Cohorts start every April and every October. And the examinations are every April and every October. So if you start in April, you sit the exam in October. If you start in October, you sit the exam in April. So it runs, there's a twice a year cycle. You mentioned the forum during your intro. How does that work? I.e., if you miss a lecture live and listen to the replay, how would you contact your teacher? Through the forum. Absolutely. Very good question. Thank you for that. So if you watch so during the live lecture, just like this webinar, you would write a question in the chat box and the lecturer will answer it there and then. If you were watching the recording and you have a question, you would just post a question in the forum. You could post it specifically for that lecture, so that lecturer will respond to you on the forum. So that's exactly how you contact the lecturer. If you miss the live lecture, you simply do it through the forum and you get a response. You could get a response very quickly, but always guaranteed within 24 hours. Okay, sorry, you are giving elements of answers while I'm typing. No problem, no need to apologize. When considering taking the self-study option, which would be the specific features that would make this advisable, e.g. more experienced students? I wouldn't necessarily say more experienced, I would say more, well, how can I put it? More self-disciplined students. If you are a self-study student, you simply receive the handbook, a copy of Principles of Banking, and then you sit the exam. You've got to teach yourself everything, okay? So if you look in the brochure, which is on the website, if you look on the brochure, there's a little table here on page 18 of the brochure that says what you get if you're a regular student and what you get if you're a self-study student. So the self-study student does get the handbook, access to the forum, past examination papers, and can attend the examination revision session, and they do receive the lecture slides. They just don't listen to the lectures. So you're basically teaching yourself. Okay, now that's perfectly doable, and we've had self-study students right from the start who have passed the exam. It's a small number. It's a very small number each cohort. It's a handful compared to, say, 60, 70 or 80 per cohort. But all I would say is if you are self-disciplined and back yourself to learn the material without being taught, then absolutely it may be the option for you. If I myself was taking it, I would prefer to be a regular student simply because that engagement with the faculty and the ability to listen to live lectures really enhances the learning experience. It's more like a university course than, say, a correspondence course. I suppose that's the analogy I'd use. Okay, does the course cover the use of derivatives and hedging, balance sheet risk management and its pricing? Absolutely, 100%. Yes, absolutely, 100%. All the detail you need on that is right there in the course. Absolutely. Does the course cover in detail the nuances of bootstrapping the zero discount curve from a collection of bonds that do not have equally spaced coupon payments and on maturities like every textbook simplifies it? Tony, thanks for that question. The answer is yes, it does. We have 2 lectures on yield curve construction, one from my close personal friend and colleague Polina Bardeva, and one that I used to do, which has recently been taken over by Claire Trifle, which covers yield curve construction. And in fact, the companion website to the core textbook has a couple of yield curve models on it that you could use to demonstrate to yourself how you bootstrap the zero coupon curve from bonds that have irregular periods between them. How many hours on average do students spend on the course besides the lectures? Well, typically it's 2-3 hours per week. So I mean, the lectures might be 2-3 hours per week, and then there's reading time and follow-up time that would probably double that. So on average, for you to make sure I would suggest that you're on top of the material and you're staying with the material. I would suggest it's say on average around 2 to 3 hours on top of the lectures that you're spending in reading and following up the lecture points or your lecture notes. That wouldn't be necessarily an absolute minimum, but it's a rough rule of thumb. I mean, if you want to spend 4 or 5 hours, then that would be perfectly fine as well. But you'd want to double up the lecture time with your own reading time to make sure you stay on top of the material. Basel III, IRRBB, FRTB, XVA, hedge accounting are covered. Absolutely, yes. Please look at the brochure and you'll see the lecture, the syllabus content in the brochure. All those topics are covered. Hedge accounting, there's a lecture on hedge accounting, there's a lecture on XVAs, there's a lecture on FRTB. There are 2 lectures on IRRBB. There's 1 detailed lecture on Basel III and then a whole host of others that show how it's implemented. So yes, from a practitioner's point of view, yes, we're all practitioners. We've all done this ourselves. FRTB is before my time when I was running a trading book. It was in the 1990s, but I personally have been involved as a practitioner in all those areas, as have indeed in the lecturers who are delivering this have been involved as practitioners in all those areas. Okay, how advanced is the maths notation using the calculation? Are they implemented using Excel as well? This is not a quantitative qualification. This is not a quant qualification. One or two of you may be familiar with Dr. Paul Wilmot's, I think he sold it a few years ago, but he certainly found it. Dr. Paul Wilmot's Certificate of Quantitative Finance, you may be familiar with that. The BTRM is not the CQF. The BTRM is not a quants qualification. The mathematics is not advanced. You require some basic numeracy because this is a quantitative subject, but the calculations are not mathematics questions. This is not a mathematics qualification. I myself have a quantitative background, but on the Treasury desk at the ALCO, it's not about what the quant view is. It's about what practical steps we need to take to make sure the balance sheet is in a good shape, and we can give comfort to the board of directors as ALCO attendees or members or treasury people or risk or finance or audit people. We can give comfort to the ALCO and the board of directors that the balance sheet is in good shape and long-term viable. That is not a quant discussion. It's a qualitative discussion. So I would suggest the mathematics is not advanced. Basic numeracy is required, but this is not a quants qualification. And in my personal opinion, rightly so. I have never ever attended an ALCO meeting at all the banks I've worked at, or now since I've been a board director, a board meeting at all the banks where I've been an NED, a non-exec, where there has been any semblance of quantitative analyst discussion. At this level of managing the balance sheet, this is the quants is on the side. If the quant side is where you are personally involved in the CQF, I would recommend. I used to lecture on the CQF actually. I used to do 3 and later 1 credit derivatives and credit derivatives pricing lectures on the CQF. So I'm personally familiar with it, and I would highly recommend it to people who work as quants. This is not an advanced maths course. Is the diploma equivalent to an MSc? It's at MSc level. This is already recognized as a level 7 graduate qualification. It's master's. This is already a master's qualification. It's master's level. It's equivalent to 300 credits, 1 semester, so it's a certificate. If you take the diploma, that's equivalent to a diploma, a master's level diploma. And what's the value beyond the certificate? Well, I'm not sure I can value it. So the certificate is awarded by FHNW of Switzerland. Correct. The certificate is master's level, awarded by FHNW. The diploma is diploma level. MSc is a MSc. All 3 of them are master's level, but the MSc requires 3 semesters of learning compared to 2 for a diploma and 1 for a certificate. That's all the questions. Fantastic. What a great range. Thank you. I hope I've answered everyone's questions. If I haven't, please keep posting on the chats. I'm going to carry on and finish up this presentation. So what is the content? As you can see there, 5 modules, very roughly speaking, very approximately speaking, the modules cover first, balance sheet risk introduction. Notice how the lecture starts from, sorry, we've had some more chat. Hold on. There's more. Diploma is required to write dissertation. The diploma, we've only had a handful of students who've ever taken the diploma. You write an 8,500 word dissertation as your submission for the diploma. That's correct. So after you've qualified and got the certificate, if you wish, you can apply to take the diploma, submit a research proposal, and then if that's accepted, you would submit your dissertation in your own time within a 12-month period. Okay, notice how the lectures on the slide start at 2 because lecture number 1 is the primer, brings everyone up to speed irrespective of their experience. We then have lectures first on balance sheet risk management. We then have lectures on ALM operating model and risk management governance, particularly the ALCO. Now, some lectures are standalone lectures, so they get slotted into the module that has space. So that's where the IFRS 9 provisioning and the hedge accounting lecture goes in. The ALM operating model is not the same topic, but we've slotted it into that module. So that's ALM and Treasury op model. Module 3 is strategic ALM plus capital markets. So that's where we've got the capital markets, the bond markets, securitization, a standalone lecture, where it sits on its own, so we've slotted it into this module, recovery planning and resolution planning, and a standalone lecture on investor relations and the credit rating process. Again, some of the questions was asking me what's the difference between the BTRM and other qualifications. I mentioned the breadth and depth of the syllabus content. There you go. Investor relations and credit rating process. I don't think that's covered in any of the qualifications that have been mentioned on the chat today. ACI, Cert BALM, FRM, CFA, that's not covered in any of those. The credit rating process, I've personally been involved in rating branches, subsidiaries, and SPVs in structured finance transactions with the three main rating agencies because I worked in Treasury. In many banks, particularly not the very largest banks, it's the Treasury function that holds the pen and owns the relationship for credit rating processes. So very relevant to Treasury. Again, we've got 2 lectures on that from my close friend and colleague, Dr. Ed Bass. Module 4 is the biggest module in terms of number of lectures. Unsurprisingly, it's all about liquidity risk. That's where we also slot in the yield curve lectures and the collateral management. Well, collateral management is part of liquidity risk. So we slot in the FTP lecture, funds transfer pricing, the yield curve lecture, and a whole host of lectures on liquidity risk, including ILAP. We also slot in the swap pricing and XVAs lectures in here, simply because, like I said, they've got to be slotted into somewhere. You could have slotted them into module 2, but some weeks get filled up with lectures more than others, and so they got slotted into here. So standalone lectures fit where we best fit them in the syllabus program. Lectures that are part of a wider group fit in their relevant module. Capital management is module 5, includes the ICAP. There's a standalone lecture on op risk and ALM. There's a standalone lecture on principles of policy documentation. And for the first time, we also have a standalone lecture from this cohort onwards on principles of business writing for ALM professionals. Why is that? And that's delivered by Michael Eichhorn, who does our reverse stress testing lecture and one of our interest rate risk lectures as well. Michael Eichhorn, and he suggested last cohort, people who work in this space, they often are required to write policy papers, proposals to ALCO, papers for approval. Business writing is a skill in itself. Can someone close the door, please? Sorry about that. I've got a house here of kids. Sorry, I'll close it myself. Okay, righto. And they're 13 and 9, so you'll forgive me, I'm sure. Right, we've got a standalone lecture on business writing because professionals in this space, Treasury, risk and finance, audit, etc., are often required to write papers, succinct, high-level papers, whether for ALCO or indeed for the board. That's an art that needs practice and skill that needs practice. We've got, for the first time in cohort 18 and subsequent, principles of business writing for ALM professionals. And I'm very pleased to add that. That's not on the slide, but it is our latest lecture. Okay, our faculty includes people. All the faculty have done this in their day job, and some of them have written about it. So Polina Bardeva, she's written a book on bank ALM. Michael Eichhorn, I mentioned reverse stress testing. Beata Libinska has written an ALM ALM optimization book. Yours truly, of course, principles of banking. So our faculty are authors as well as practitioners and instructors. So something that we're very proud about. Right, that I think brings me to the end, and I'm thinking we've got 8 minutes left, so nice place for me to hand back to Mr. Brown, who will talk to you about alumni support, and I will meantime keep an eye on the chat function to see if there's any more questions. Mr. Brown, back to you, sir.
Moorad, thanks very much. So this is the passion that Moorad has about this program has lasted 10 years. This is reflected in, this presentation alone, and well, his teaching skills are extraordinary. And the faculty, I would suggest, the faculty are equally, they're incredibly passionate. And the reason why I know this is because I joined last year the whole, BTRM group, if you like, and I made it my mission to contact every single person who has completed the program. And this is where the BTRM alumni slide comes into play. The feedback was thrilling and it was unanimous for all those who did the full course. So I would suggest that some of the ones who did the self-study learning, the feedback was okay. The handbook, they enjoyed the handbook, but it wasn't. I think the main experience is going through the full course. That is just an experience in itself, and that the feedback that I had was that the forum was incredible in terms, not just questions, but also sharing ideas. There's also networking globally around the world. We hold networking events, and that the syllabus was an amazing journey to go through. So these are the conversations that I have had with pretty much everybody who's done the course. The other thing is, in terms of, I would also suggest that the people who do this course, it's not just a few years experience. So I had to send an email breaking down the age ranges of the people who do the program, and on the application forms you put your date of birth. So I had to go through and do my research and break it down, and then send a spreadsheet through to one of our partners to let them know, right, how many people in their 20s, how many in their 30s, and so on. There are many in their 20s, which means that you don't have to have many years experience to do this course. There are many that do, of course, but you can be a junior member of a Treasury team as well.
Absolutely. And many of them are. Yeah.
And many of them are. So just to reassure anybody who's watching this presentation thinking, oh, well, that doesn't include me, then it does. If you want to, if you want us to elaborate on that, then, give me a call. I'll put my, in fact, you should all have my details, actually, my contact details. I've sent emails to you prior to this presentation. So BTRM alumni support is, this is what we would strongly recommend. If you're unsure about doing this program, get in touch with me at jeff@btrm.org. In fact, let me write this down. So jeff@btrm.org or jeff@wbstraining.com. And I can put you in touch with alumni either from your region or from your organization, assuming that there are alumni from your organization who've gone through the program. And I think it's a great idea, or alumni in similar roles, either to the one that you're working in or to the one that you want to work in the future. So, and I won't be, I won't pick and choose. I will literally send you a list of everyone from your region, and you can choose the email addresses of everyone from your region, and you can choose who you want to contact. So you can have a look at, do your research on LinkedIn and so on. There's also a study partner program. So if you want to study with somebody from your region or from your organization, and it might be from your organization in different geographical locations, that's absolutely fine. We'll put you in touch and we'll do everything we can to help you so that your study journey is more enjoyable. If you prefer to have a study buddy, if you like. If you prefer to study on your own, no problem at all. The majority do study on their own, but there are those who request study buddies as well. The alumni support desk, well, it's comprehensive. So the forum is responded to extremely quickly. We advertise within 24 hours. It's actually usually within, 3 to 4 hours that you get a response on the forum from a faculty member or from a colleague around the world who's studying and who might have the answer to your question, or with some of the collapses of banks in the last 12 months or so, there might be some opinions flying around, and it's great fun to share news and opinions on the forum as well. Okay. Let's just switch the control of this over to me. Right, questions. We've already had a lot of questions, but that's great. And if there are any other questions, then feel free to put those questions on the chat right now. And incidentally, if any questions pop up in the coming days or weeks, then feel free to get in touch with me whenever you want, and either by phone or by email, and I'll do everything I can to help you fill in the knowledge gaps about this program.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Jeff, you've kindly put your email there, so they can drop you an email. I'm sure you'd be happy to chat to them on the phone or WhatsApp call if they prefer as well. So any queries you've got, do drop Jeff a line, and he'll be only too happy to address them. But I hope we've managed to address all your queries here. There were lots of questions, all very pertinent, all very spot on. I hope we were able to address them all. If there's nothing else, then I will personally bid you a good day, because I'm not sure of your time zone for all of you. I wish you a good day. Jeff, thank you for organising, as always, as energetic as ever. I'll just say one last opportunity for any final comments. Otherwise, I'll hand back to you, Jeff, and I will wish everyone good day. No, very welcome. Glenn, thank you. Very welcome, everybody.
You're welcome, Glenn. Thanks very much. Thanks for joining us, everyone. I hope it was useful, and hopefully hear from you soon.
Excellent. Great. Thanks, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.